testing. Okay, we're getting ready to start, so if you want to grab your drink or cookies or whatever, and then get back to your seat, we can get this thing started. I'm sorry. Time being again, time on.
Off.
What?
Turn them off.
Turn off what?
The ringers on your cell phone.
Now first, everybody needs to do what I have not done, which is to turn off your ringer. Otherwise, we're going to have some interruptions that are not going to be good. Okay, so everybody's got their phone off. Thank you.
Handheld. Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome. Let's get this started. We can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do that quickly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah! Play ball.
Okay, is this too loud?
Not too loud.
Not too loud. Okay, everybody, hello. I'm Maury Thompson. I'm a resident of the harbor. I've been here since 2012. Come on in, folks. Since 2012. I was here for Hurricane Florence. In fact, I was here in the harbor for Hurricane Florence, meaning I did not leave. Anybody else in the audience who was here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 of us were here and experienced the full joy of having Hurricane Florence come through and dump 12 feet of water on our community, or in our community. Facts. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to try to give you some of this knowledge of what we went through and what you can avoid. First, we got some housekeeping issues. The fire exits. One here, one the door you came in, and the other one the door down that hallway. And the second thing, which is probably more important, is where are the bathrooms? They're down that hallway. First hallway to the right. The women are the first right, the men are the second right. The third, if you go straight, you'll be in the fire department. You don't want to do that. As far as this meeting today, this discussion, the one thing we really, really demand is civility. It may not happen a lot in the harbor, but it's got to happen in here. We're not going to yell at each other. We're not going to curse at each other. We're not going to raise our voices. We're not going to interrupt. We're going to be gentlemen and ladies and let these two wonderful ladies be able to give us their wisdom. The one rule, the one unbreakable rule we have today is there is no politics. This is a non-political zone. Okay? Don't need to play politics in here. Okay, this meeting is being sponsored by FACTS, FairfieldHarbour FACTS. Now, some of you may know what FACTS is, and some of you may not. The mission of FACTS, the Fairfield Action Council for Truth, FACT, will pursue truth and provide concerned residents and property owners with verifiable information about all statements by any groups or individuals concerned with Fairfield Harbor. We're an independent group, concerned property owners. We're trying to make sure the truth gets out. We have opinions as individuals, but anything we put out, what is that, a corner? Anything we put out is verifiable, non-political, and it's the truth. We meet each month in the activities building. Our membership is $10 a year, and it's open to all who believe in our mission. So any of you who are interested in getting in facts, joining us, helping us investigate, going forward, we welcome you. We'd love to have you join us. You can go to our website, FACTS.org. There we've got examples of what we've done, our history, and all of that. We've been addressing this since 2011. The flooding program we did 3 months ago, we've got a video on that. It's online. We are doing a video today, which will be online along with a summary of what we posted. Okay? Thank you. Now today, we are really lucky. We've got two great presenters. The first, Tideland Electric, they're representing Heidi Smith in the blue. In the blue. Heidi has a lot of concern for Fairfield Harbor. She's worked out here a lot. She even hired me to work for her to install Ecobee thermostats. So some of you got Ecobee thermostats in your house that I installed or that she gave to contractors to install. And she's available if you need to call her. You want to hand out something with your phone number? You will have her phone number before you leave today. And I will say she will answer the phone whenever you call. I mean, I have called her in the middle of the night and she has answered. Not saying how much sense she answered. Our second person is Kristy Kulberg. Pink, in the pink. So we have pink and blue. In the pink is Kristy. She is the executive director of the Coastal Carolina Disaster Resiliency Agency. They had a different name when Florence.
We were Craven County Disaster Recovery Alliance. We are expanding and looking at resiliency.
And they did an awful lot for us after Florence.
And still are.
Do what?
And still are.
And still are?
Still are.
Okay, I should have said that. And still are.
Still are.
These two women have a wealth of knowledge to pass on to us to get ready, to help us get ready for hurricane season, because it starts tomorrow. When you see tomorrow the sun shining, it's going to mean it's shining on the first day of hurricane season, which hopefully it's gonna be good for us. But anyway, from what the prognosticators say, that since it snowed this year, we're gonna have a hurricane. Of course I believe that.
This is 2018.
Well, I know 2018 it did, but that hopefully was an oddity. We don't need another Florence, believe me. But without any further ado, Heidi, you want to kick us off and tell us what you're going to do on the electrical side? Or what we're going to do?
Okay. Thank you for coming today. As Maury said, I'm Heidi Smith, and I work out of the corporate office of for Tideland, which is in Beaufort County in a town called Pantego. I've been with the co-op 33 years, and I'll be there at least another 10, so the phone number you get today, it will still ring for at least the next decade. That's the plan. And so Tideland, just to briefly tell you, our service territory is 6 counties. We serve all of mainland Dare County, so once you cross the bridge, you go to Manio. Our service stops there. We serve Roker Creek Island, and then we serve all of mainland Hyde County, portions of Washington, Pamlico, Beaufort, and Craven County. So I think I got all the counties in there. So I'm gonna start this, and by the way, all these are photos from Fairfield Harbor during Florence. So some of you, those of you who've been around a while knew Fred Hackney. He was our lineman. 41 plus years lineman, and that's him working with Stephen Pate from the Craven County Inspections Department. And then I don't normally, years ago my department was 5, now it's 1. And so generally I don't leave during a hurricane now. I have my own bed at work and I stay throughout the duration of the event. In Florence, my boss, our CEO, Paul Sproul, came out of the office and said, you need to step away. We'll figure this out. We'll figure out a way to make this happen, but you have to go to Fairfield Harbor. And I've been through a lot of hurricanes, Irene, Isabel, but I can tell you none left me as emotionally spent as Fairfield Harbor. And part of that, I'm going to be honest with you, the reason a lot of that was is because so many people here had never been through a hurricane. When I see them in Belhaven, I see them in Hyde County, there's no morning time. There is just, okay, water's out, start ripping carpet, start cutting drywall. And what really tore me up was I saw people that looked like they were literally shell-shocked. And I couldn't stop and talk to people because I had to drive around the subdivision and let all the tears get spent before I could stop and talk to people. Ralph Tridick, I love him over on the Kia Court and known him for, I don't know, forever and a day. He's back when people used to retire in their 50s. He's been here forever. And he's one of my time use members, but I remember going over and he had all these tools that came from his father. And he said, Heidi, that water was on him like no time and everything gone and out by the pile. So I'm really committed to making sure that we help people become better prepared and improve the response, because it makes such a big difference. The initial preparations and response has so much impact on the ultimate recovery. So I'm going to go through a couple quick slides because there's some things I need to get out of the way. Number one, I do want you to know that restoration, recovery, and reimbursement, we're very dependent as an electric cooperative on FEMA and the state of North Carolina. This was our Florence reimbursement. Now I'm going to go ahead and say that's not the total price tag to us for Florence. Believe it or not, we have pole tags, we have every pole GPS, we know the age of that pole. We don't get reimbursed as if we put a brand new pole and a brand new pole fell down in the storm. So everything has depreciation and everything. But that was our Florence reimbursement. $1.4 million of that came from FEMA. North Carolina is one of the only 2 states in the nation that will make us whole, and they do the other 25%. So I know you said it's no politics, it's not politics, it's money, it's rates, and we have a lot of storms. We have a lot of declared storms in Tideland territory. Okay, so I want to get this question out of the way. Why don't we put all the electric utilities underground? And there was a huge ice storm back in early 2000s, and so the state of North Carolina commissioned a study, said what would it cost to put everything underground. The price tag at that time was around $41 billion. It would take 25 years, and at that time, the electric bills would have gone up around 125%. The cost of that today is double. So that's why everything's gone underground. Yes, we are selective about what we put underground and do it in key areas. But the good news is that today, with engineering and the products that are on the marketplace and everything, overhead is so much more resilient. We're doing double circuits, we're putting in some cases, steel poles and those sorts of things. But when it's overhead, it's so much easier to find and it's so much easier to repair. So if you want to know that, that's why everything's not underground. Myth dispelling. No, we don't turn the power off before Mother Nature takes our system down. We do not. Okay, that is like the biggest thing, the rumor, and this is a Facebook post from right before, I guess Hurricane Florence, as she began to impact our territory. I put that out there because that is always, it doesn't matter, 33 years, rumor's still there. Okay, so I want you to know how power gets to you. So Tideland, like I said, we're 6 counties north of the Pamlico River. We have, and across the Pamlico Sound, we have different transmission providers. But in your area, our power comes from Duke Progress. I don't know. I think that's the latest iteration of the name. I'm never sure. Duke East, I don't know what they're called. So, but that is where our transmission comes from. And probably about 10 years ago, previously, FairfieldHarbour's substation was Silver Hill Substation over in Grantsboro on Highway 306. And so several years ago, we decided because the load was growing and just the distance and so forth, we built a new substation that, against my advice, we called the FairfieldHarbour Substation. I want y'all to know that I love FairfieldHarbour, but do you know how hard it is as a communications person to say, no, we didn't just build the substation for that subdivision. But they call it the FairfieldHarbour Substation, and everybody else that's not in FairfieldHarbour is like, we want our own substation, but it serves a much broader area than just FairfieldHarbour. And I want to tout the substation because the substation's actually been getting some national coverage recently. So this substation's wonderful, and we also have installed 5 megawatt battery energy storage system there. So this is on site, and it was actually the first utility battery storage energy system at a substation in North Carolina and probably the better part of the eastern United States. And there's just all the reasons. It helps us with resiliency, reliability, power quality, and it is garnering savings for us during those few hours during the month when wholesale power goes through the roof. Okay, so out of FairfieldHarbour Substation, we have 3 circuits, and those 3 circuits are, and if you're on the outage text messaging, FairfieldHarbour 1, FairfieldHarbour 2, and then Caton Road Circuit. And you can see the numbers. I'm not going to repeat those. If you need any slides, I can give them to you later, email them to you. But there's the numbers. So FairfieldHarbour Circuit number 1. It starts at the substation, and it basically goes over to around Prescott Road, which I think is I think Prescott Road's technically in Pamlico County. So it stretches back over there. And then it comes down and it basically serves FairfieldHarbour on the Care side. I'm just going to, that side of the subdivision. And I think, let's see, so we've got 1,089 folks on that circuit. And then on FairfieldHarbour 2, which is the largest circuit out of the substation, a lot more folks, That's, I don't know if they call it this or not. I learned this from Florence, the dark side. Okay. I like research that forever. Like somebody said for dark side stables, and somebody said it's because they didn't allow overhead lights. I still don't know what the deal is, but the overhead lights. Okay. So, and so that is our largest circuit, and then you can see that we do go under Upper Broad Creek. And then we have services on that other area, and I can't even remember what it's called, but it's very sparsely populated over there. So we do have an underwater cable there. All right, so this is the Fairfield Harbor map right after Florence. This is the map that we had at Tideland in our storm response center. This is mapped out where the meters were pulled. And so if you were here, you know that we pulled, I want to think of the 900 meters that we pulled on our system, about 700 were pulled Fairfield Harbor, Broad Creek Road. So why did we pull meters? Well, I showed you on that very first slide where Fred Hackney was working with the county inspector, and what had to happen was, if we believe that there's been any water inundation that's impacted anything electrical wise in a home, that house is deemed not safe initially to restore power to. We just don't want to take the chance. And I will tell you that Florence was the first hurricane, major hurricane since I've been with Tideland, that we didn't have a house burn down. And these types of actions are what prevents that piling on. I mean, you know, it's bad enough your house floods and then things burns down, that we want to avoid at all costs. And so this was the map that was in our dispatch, and we knew which houses had meters, didn't have meters. And one of the things that has concerned me, because at the time people were very upset about their meters being pulled. They maybe evacuated maybe to Greenville and came back pretty quickly, meters gone, and they think that that is the only thing that kept them from having service. Didn't matter, it may not have even been to the street, but it really hurt a lot of people's feelings, made people mad. And what concerned me, and what I tell folks, is that I heard people say, well, I won't leave next time, but I will tell you that more often than not, and I remember Barbara Sheffer used to live on Pelican. She moved back, I think she went back to New York, but she told me, she said, the water came up once, went down, and came again. And she said, I heard more people in the long run tell me they wish they left than wish they had stayed. But what does worry me are those that left and came back and found their meter gone. Don't let that prevent you from taking care of yourself. Those were worked out fairly quickly, but there were places that they had to have an electrician, or they had to turn some things loose, like some HVAC systems that had gone underwater. But again, all this is about us wanting to prevent further damage, disaster, or even worse, physical injury and death. When are inspections required? So the co-op owns everything except for your service panel, and for those folks that have a masthead, if they have overhead to their house and it pulls away from the house, that all has to be repaired and inspected before we're allowed to restore electric service. And I did talk to Stephen Pate at Craven inspections this past week, and just to say, is there anything you want me to tell anybody? And he's, but I'm going to tell you this: out of all the hurricanes I've also worked, Craven County, in my opinion, did the best job of any county I've ever seen in managing this. And I say this not only on this electric side, electric service side, but I'm going to say this. When you see my title is Energy Services, and the business cards don't say that. I'm not going to throw away a perfectly good business card because my title changed. Phone number's still the same, the email's still the same. So that's not the current title on the business cards isn't what I do now. But I also manage energy services, which means I'm I take care of, if you have a high bill complaint, or you're building a new house and you want to know how the house should be energy efficient, that's my other hat I wear. And so I always worry because it is like so many contractors come in from everywhere. And I mean, some of them, to use the word contractor is being very generous. There are scam artists that come from everywhere, and they use your fear and your worry to get you to sign a contract, and then they do work that God knows what you get. And so Craven County is the only county I ever saw that was requiring HVAC calculations to issue those permits. And that has always been a big concern for me, is that people go through a flood. It's actually a great opportunity. We actually held a workshop in FairfieldHarbour to try to show folks, while all this stuff's pulled out, this insulation, this flooring, let's give you some tips as to how to make your home more energy sound while you're putting it back together. But we see it time and time again. Everyone's like, everything's brand new, why didn't my electric bill go down? Well, because it wasn't properly sized, it wasn't properly installed, your duct work is leaky as can be, or when they were removing the insulation after they did the wall cut, they didn't cut the insulation all the way through, so they start tugging on it, and we can go back in with infrared and see all these gaps at the top of the ceiling now where you don't have any insulation coverage. So I want to applaud Craven County, because I've never in all my years seen any county require that type of accountability post-storm. Can it slow things down a little bit? Yes. But I really believe that they were a consumer advocate all the way and ran a lot of people out of here that didn't have any business being in here.
Questions now, or wait until the end?
Can we wait till the end if you don't mind?
No problem.
Yeah, and just because I want to be respectful of the other speaker's time. And so this is what, these are, you know, my FairfieldHarbour collection from Florence. Those are the little green labels that they would put, they would come by. They made it very easy, so we knew stop, go, and we were slamming in meters just like that. We hired back, we have a great group of retirees, and we hired back, they already know the system, and we put them to work during storms, and we're like, go put those meters back in. But this is the 1 meter in FairfieldHarbour, that 1 meter that did not get pulled, that was missed, and that's what it looked like. It's just complete, and we were so grateful that the house did not go up in flames. So that's what it looks like. And remember now, this water is at best brackish. Salt, electricity, you know, because we serve agriculture, we have much different equipment out there, because salt and electricity do not mix. I mean, water and electricity work bad enough, but salty water, brackish water, not good. So I just want to go into a few things. I'm really big on making sure you're ultimately informed. I mean, I really pride myself on that. You go to most places and they don't even know what circuit they're on. I want to make sure you're enabled with as much information as possible. This has been something we really, a lot of people will see something as they go along, but they don't really know how to report it, because it's not necessarily at their house. So everything on the Tideland system should be tagged. Every pole should have a tag. If you go by somewhere, you don't know the specific address, or maybe it's just on the right of way and you see something, you get that tag number, you give it to us, GPS takes us right to it. Don't have to have the crews riding up and down the road trying to find it, takes us right there. Also, the same is true for the pad mount transformer boxes. And sometimes they get left unlocked. Somebody hit it with a mower. You know, and anything but see something, say something. I had a member, it's good, I think I just hit in the most recent Carolina Country, yeah. She was out walking, doing her, you know, getting her steps in, and she passed by and she saw a broken insulator. Well, broken insulators, lots of times people ask, you know, why do you have so many power outages when it first rains? Well, because things can break, but the power doesn't impact the power necessarily until it actually rains. So on a clear day, she saw a broken insulator at the bottom of the pole, called us. That prevented an outage that would have impacted 533 folks in Washington. So if you see something, say something, give us those numbers, and we'll be right there to take a look at it. Debris piles posed a real big challenge for us in Fairfield Harbor because most of our stuff is underground. And so what we had, and it's important, like I said, this is Josh Bain, and I will never forget, I came out, after the power was initially restored and I could be back I could come down to Fairfield Harbor almost, I won't say daily, but a couple of times a week, and I would see Josh working, and he was a lineman with us at the time, and I came in one day, and if I see our trucks, I just try to stop and talk to the guys, and he told me, he says, if I have to dig one more underground out, I'm quitting. Well, he did. He did. His wife, Hope, has a drink shop. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, he went to work for his wife. Now, Josh is now back with us, and now he is our engineering tech, so he doesn't have to dig stuff anymore. But it took these guys that are used to, like, we climb poles, we go with bucket trucks, and it's like, I got a shovel, and I'm gonna do 8 hours worth of work to restore power to one person. That's a hard thing to deal with. One of the things that we dealt with during that hurricane, though, were the debris piles. So not only did they have to come out and find it, and that's what he's using, we have a device called a thumper, and we're trying to locate where the break is along the underground. And so here's our other guy, and he's having to move the debris pile because, of course, where's the area that they need to get to and evaluate and make repairs can be under that debris pile. Now, I don't know what you can do about it, let's just be honest, but I think to the extent that we can, because there was so much debris and it was everywhere, so it wasn't like selective. And I don't say this to beat up on anybody, but I'm saying that if there is a situation where we can be mindful and we have a little room to work with, that's great, especially if we don't have power. If you have power and everything's going fine, you know, but that was a big issue for us here. Okay, preparing for an extended outage. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this is if you do not have your Generac, already whole house generating system. Generac actually, they send me a report every year to tell me how many exist, and it's amazing how many Generacs are, they do it by zip code. It's just amazing how many people invest now and those sorts of things. But preparing for an extended outage, number one, you need to find an alternative location if you're medically dependent. That's another myth. We have no way to restore power to your house individually if you're on home oxygen, some medical equipment. Doesn't work that way because it's like if the snow can't come plow your driveway if you don't have access. You have to get the main roads up and the side roads to get to your driveway. So it doesn't work like that, and that's another myth that needs to be dispelled. We have no way to go to your house because all this stuff from transmission, substation, all the way down has got to take place first. Please make sure you have working smoke and CO2 detectors. Now it is part of North Carolina Housing Code, and it's because of all the hurricanes that new homes have to have carbon monoxide detectors. Even if you don't have any gas in appliances or whatever in your home. And part of it is because so many people now have generators that even folks that don't have a generator leave their window up, power's out, they're trying to get some air circulation. Neighbors got their generator next door and the fumes are coming over. We even have people that are, so anyway, so that's why. And people will go buy generators and put them in their garage and that is the #1 cause of death after a hurricane. Is carbon monoxide poisoning. That's the #1 cause of death after a hurricane. And we preach it a lot in Tideland Topics and our social media. Before the storm comes, and sometimes I will do this, I'll definitely post, but before fill your freezer space, but not with ice cream, please, but ice. So full freezers will stay cold longer after power goes out. If you take that dead space, this is the type of thing you don't do it the day before and go get a bunch of milk jugs full of water and stick them in there the day before. The great thing about hurricanes, we know they're coming. You go ahead, you get some jugs a week out, start filling them up and take up that space. Change your thermostat settings. If the weather's beginning to get a little gloomy outside, that's when I would, I'm not big on air conditioning. I love heat though. So when that snowstorm and that snow and ice was coming this winter, I just started doing my thermostat up a little bit so that, because I don't have any gas, I don't have electric all the way. And so, but you may want to change those thermostat settings on your HVAC before the, you know, pre-cool it. Also refrigeration. So as soon as I think a storm's coming, I go and I turn my refrigeration all the way down to the bad settings that use too much energy, but would help preserve my food. Water reserves, I don't know what the situation is in Fairfield Harbor. I'm assuming that you got that municipal water is still pretty dependent even, okay, yeah. I didn't think that was a thing. Used to, everybody was filling up the bathtubs. Of course, charge everything, consider power blocks. I used to get, I don't know, they used to be really popular at trade shows, and everybody would get them away for a couple of years. Alternate light sources, again, no open flames. You know, we just don't need those. You know, it's still amazing to me how many houses get burned down over a candle in a power outage. It just, now that my 83-year-old mother lives with me, I went and I got some new light bulbs that actually charge, and so, and so she's got those light bulbs. And unplug sensitive electronics. So one of the worst, I mean, surges can happen anytime. Surges can be created within your own home. That can come from, you know, big motors and things like that, even down line. Lightning, yes, power quality, power blink, those sorts of things. Those can happen. But the worst time to lose something is during these events, especially during power restoration. So whenever you can, unplug those sensitive electronics. You can have a surge in a house even when power's off, by the way. Oh, this is so clever. Somebody came up with this. I'm gonna play this. I thought this was cool. I do it now. You just read it. I just love that. Like I said, it was something that saw a couple of years ago, and then, okay. The other thing I would really encourage everyone to do, and I don't know how many people, so Tideland has a member portal. It's a secure member portal. You can go in and look at your bill. You can look at your energy use daily, hourly. Some people every 15 minutes. You can do a lot of things. But the number one thing I wish everyone would do is go in and update your contact information. It is amazing the number of people that do not realize that we have a phone number that's been no good, and they're like 2 phone numbers down the line, or addresses, emails, and those sorts of things. But that is going to be the backbone to our communications with you. And I'm going to talk about the communication in a second. So once the power goes off, and this isn't an extended outage, we ask our members to turn off all their household breakers except one for indoor lighting, or I don't know, something you have a radio attached to. Once power's been restored, then we ask you to wait and not bring everything on all at once. And this can help prevent overloads on utility distribution equipment. So imagine that power's been off for 5 days. And it's been really hot. So when we bring something back up, that means every single air conditioner, every single water heater, every single refrigerator, freezer, hot tub, swimming pool, blah, 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 all are trying to come on at the same time. And so what happens is you start, you'll lose power. I mean, it's just like anything. You have a bunch of hair dryers on the same circuit breaker's going to trip. Same thing's going to happen to us. And so we ask everyone to take their time and let these things come back up and do priority loads. Probably your air conditioner is probably the big one you want to come on the quickest after hurricane, but maybe hold the water heater off for maybe an hour or two, or even a couple hours. And so, but that really does help us, and it also can prevent fires. Some of the fires that end up happening, or actually, and we had this happen in Bellhaven, when the power went off, people forgot the stove was on. They were cooking on the stove when the power went off. They went to a hotel to stay for a couple of days, and we restored power to that location. House burned down because they had yeah. So again, that is just it helps us, helps you, really. Okay, I'm really proud to say that Tideland was the first utility in North Carolina to offer outage text messaging. And so, and that's been really good for us. It's, number one, it's reduced a significant amount of our labor. We now can send these ladies that we had to call in, ladies and gentlemen, to answer the phones and do all that stuff. Now we can have them be part of the restoration team. They go out and deliver meals to the crews in the field, so the crews don't have to come back to Central Point. They can stay where they're at, and we rehydrate those guys and all that sort of thing. So, so to text an outage, now you do have to be opted into the system, and if you're not, just call me or email me and I'll get you set up and get you assigned to the right circuit. But you just text the word out to short code 85700. That short code will be going away in probably the next couple of months, but I'll send something in Caroline Country to let everybody know what that is. Otherwise, you can call 944-2400 and use our automated outage system. Technology has transformed outage management, and what I love about technology, especially like outage text messaging, we can be a small utility and do big, stunning things. And a lot of that is this technology. So today, to be honest with you, do you really need to report an outage? Yeah, probably almost don't. I don't go quite there, but we have what's called now possible outage prediction, because we've deployed so many devices downline, and if there's something, it tells us, it predicts how many people are potentially impacted. And then we start what we call pinging the meters, and we send a communication to the meter and say, hey, are you awake or are you not? And if it comes back, then we know exactly how many people are impacted by that outage. And so we have real-time data, we have SCADA operations, so we can now, used to when the crews would ride the line out, they find the problem, they fix the problem, then they drive back to the substation to re-energize the circuit. We don't have to do that anymore. We can now, with our SCADA operator, say, we've made the repair, put it back in, let's see if it holds. And so all these things are speeding up our, we're not only preventing outage, predicting, preventing, but we're speeding up our outage response times. And we have, since Florence, because that was the storm that it scared us, we now have a contingency plan, which is a base camp contract. It's not cheap, but we now have a contract that we are guaranteed that if we have something like I think Hurricane Michael was like a Cat 5 that just completely flattened large parts of the panhandle. If that happened, we have an entire mobile city that will be here. They do the laundry, they will cook food, they take care of everything. They service the vehicles. So we do have a contingency plan. So we're not, we're always thinking, what if? And just so you know, outage updates, the best way to get an outage update is text, because we text you, and that is literally me texting you, 9 times out of 10 off my phone. If you get an outage text message, that's coming from me, personally. Social media, I do Facebook, I'll be honest with you, I have all the Twitter and all that other stuff, but except for Dare County, they're not really dedicated to that. You'll always find updates on, and we're very transparent. That's my big thing about being transparent, and the text messages. So I will say, interesting during Florence, I have the ability to send a hyperlink in a text message, and this worked really well when we had that big, I don't know if you know, it was a worldwide news when there was a big outage at the Outer Banks and they had to evacuate everybody for like, I don't know how long. Anyway, and the bridge builder went through the main cable, and so Everett and Hatters Island had no power, and it was a major evacuation. So we would send hyperlinks so people could read details. Well, I tried that, and when I did that to the FairfieldHarbour circuit, oh my gosh, people were very upset. So I can send you a text message that says like this one: Washington substation, tornado on Brady Road, broke 5 sub-transmission poles, major reconstruction required, anticipate Saturday afternoon power restoration. And I can feed you updates. But during Florence, I thought, well, I want to give people more robust updates. So I'm going to include a hyperlink so it'll take them to an article that's specific to them, and they can read all about real details. But I really got bombarded by folks out of FairfieldHarbour said they couldn't follow the hyperlink, or maybe didn't have the data or smartphones. But I'm going to try it again the next time, because I think, I don't know, my 80-year-old mother now has Siri. So anyway, I'm thinking maybe I get by the next time. One other thing I want to caution you about is that if you are a regular portal user, or if by chance you get daily energy alerts, because you can actually, we'll text you every day how many kilowatt hours you used every single day if you really want. If you really have something better to do. But I just want you to know that when we have a major outage, you will still get a reading. If you go on the portal, it's going to say, you're going to like, I didn't use any electricity yesterday. I'm sitting here, I have no electricity, no air conditioning, blah, blah, blah. Because of the way the communications is set up, the meters are estimating, they will true up when the power is restored. So don't freak out about that. We're not charging you. And the last thing I want to highlight is that we were so fortunate to have no major event in 2024. And so we felt really good that Hurricane Helene, which was awful, so many lessons to be learned. I happened to be on vacation that week, don't even remember anything from vacation because I was glued to not just watching what was a horrific event, but gleaning as much information as I could to use with my members to say, what can we do to be better prepared? I was telling Kristy, I didn't know about this. If you don't have cell service and you don't have Wi-Fi, that there's a way if you have Apple phone to use satellite. And I didn't know. And that's going to be in your July Carolina country, because I'm working on an article about that right now. There's always, and you're going to see this, I love literature. Past is prologue. I love that. William Shakespeare, he's my jam. And so, or if you're more into it, Katy Perry. What is it? Katy Perry is what's that girl's name? She's an original American Idol girl. Kelly Clarkson. What doesn't kill you will kill you, make you stronger. So that's the way I feel about these hurricanes. Every one of them is an opportunity to be better prepared for the next one. And we're constantly gleaning information. And those are the things, the conversations that neighbors need to be having with one another. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? Those are things you need to share with one another. And make sure your own personal and neighborhood resiliency is where it needs to be. Thank you very much.
Yeah, can we hold on to those questions, sir, if you don't mind, until the end?
Okay.
Kristy?
Very end.
Very end.
Thank you, Heidi.
I'm good, thank you. There we go. All right, no, I'm a walker. I gotta walk and talk or my mouth doesn't work. So, hello, I am Kristy Kulberg. I am the Executive Director of, we call it CCD, right? It's a lot easier. We formed right after Hurricane Matthew in 2016, and we have served the community ever since. We just formed our actual nonprofit April of last year. We've been under a fiscal agent ever since Matthew. So we are in a new journey, and in that journey, we're expanding. So previously we served just Craven County. We are now also taking care of Jones County. They're merging up with us. And Carteret County is likely coming up with us as well. So we are expanding, hence the change to Coastal Carolina. And one of the lessons that we have learned is that yeah, it's not all about recovery. If you are not resilient, if your home is not ready, then your recovery is going to be worse. I just tagged a line the other day. I was doing one of these classes, and I said, your recovery is only as good as your preparedness. And it is so true. There is no organization, FEMA, nothing is out there that can fully recover you, especially if you are not ready. So this is our contact information. You can go there and see some things. So the most important thing to do, first question, who was not here in Florence or before? Who is new since Hurricane Florence? Keep your ears wide open. I got here in June of 2017. I got here right before Matthew and Florence. My husband was at 28 years in the Marine Corps, and we lived in Riverbend. We bought a house in Riverbend. September 13th, 2018 changed our entire lives. We had 6 feet of water in our home. We lost everything, and we found out that we were drastically uninsured. We had thought, we'd never lived in hurricanes before, we had never lived in a flood zone, and thought that our insurance broker took care of us. Didn't happen. We found out we had no contents coverage. We found out that our insurances were too low, and didn't know how to evacuate. We didn't know any of that stuff, and so we literally lost everything. We lived in our camper for a short time in our driveway, and I found out our house flooded. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I had joked I wanted to drink a hurricane during the hurricane. And so we chose our evacuation destination based on what Hard Rock had we not been to, because we collect those glasses from all over the world. And so we went to Atlanta, Georgia, and we're sitting in Hard Rock drinking a hurricane during a hurricane, and saw our neighbor's house on Fox News, CNN, one of those big things in the bar of Hard Rock Cafe, and the water was above his elevated garage, or in his elevated house above the garage. And my house was on a slab, so I knew if he had water in his upper floor, then I knew we were toast. We snuck in between the 2 floods, because if you're not from here, you may not know, when Raleigh opens their floodgates as the storms move inland, we get a second flooding. So the storm surge flooded us with almost 6 feet of water, and the second flood put another foot of water into our home after that water came back downriver. So it's true. I got into disaster because of that. I was a stay-at-home grandma. We had just got custody of our special needs grandson, and I decided to go back to work because I felt like people weren't doing their job. I wasn't getting help. Everybody's telling us no. Nobody would even take the time to tell me why they want help. They're just saying, no, can't help you, click. And so I came in to tell all those people that they're wrong. And I have. FYI, I have. But I wanted to be a part of the change, not just complain about the change that needed to be made. So my personal motion in this is to make sure that people don't have the same story that I do. I became suicidal. My husband and I almost divorced, and it created a trauma on us that is unlike anything I've ever felt before. And so if I can change even one person's story, I'm going to do it. These are some of those ways that you can be ready for and know what we're ready for. I'm going to back out of this because I want to show you a couple of these. So some of the most important things, that's the wrong one, is, are you at a risk of flooding? And let's just say if you're in FairfieldHarbour, you are, to put it simple. So you can actually Google all this information. If you Google FRIS, FRIS.nc.gov, you can go right into here, you enter your address down here. This is my address, people, don't be going there.
Chris,
Oh, is it not going?
yeah, the HDMI cable, perhaps. Can
Let's
we?
see. Probably because I switched screens. Probably searching.
Check the battery, Jeff.
Maybe. Maybe not. Okay. we'll just go. Okay, I'll keep talking. So what it is, if you go to that frizz.nc.gov, you'll see right on the main page, it'll ask you for your address. You put your address in there, and it is going to pop up. Hopefully he'll get up while I'm going through this. Yeah. It will pop up and it will show you a gray area, a yellow area, or a blue area, okay? If any of your home is in the blue area, we call it the blue zone at CCD area because we're simple people. If you are in that blue zone, it means you are in the highest flood danger of the area. So if any piece of your home touches the blue and you get more than 50% damage by the storm, you are going to be required to elevate your home. Required. No ifs, ands, buts about it. Required. Okay? That's something that got us. Our home was in the blue and it had not been elevated yet. That's why the previous homeowner sold it, because they knew that it was going to be a requirement. And yeah, so if you're in the yellow, that's the second highest. And if you're in the gray, there is not flood risk to your home, however, or on their charts. But one thing I will tell you about flood insurance is that flood insurance isn't just for storms time. If you have a water main break outside of your home, your homeowner's insurance will not cover that water damage. It's happened many times. Even in Craven County, people have had that damage. 1 inch of water causes $25,000 of damage or more. With the construction prices these days, we're talking more. With labor prices these days by contractors, we're talking more. So please know that that is going to be essential. The other important website to go to is ncdps.gov. They have a Know Your Zone section on there. That will tell you your evacuation zone. Again, if you're in Fairfield Harbor, welcome to Zone A. We are the most commonly evacuated zone in this area. Fairfield Harbor, we like to thank you. We like to flood. So here in Fairfield Harbor, we're Zone A. We need to evacuate if evacuations are called. I can't tell you how many people have had to give me their storm stories if they didn't evacuate. They were stuck in their attics, or they were stuck in the water because they didn't have attics, and they were afraid to go up to the roof. Had we stayed, I would have been on the roof with 5 dogs, a cat, a bearded dragon, and my special needs grandson, okay? Tell me how that would have worked out. I've had people who have had to go through the waters because their home didn't have an attic, it didn't have, or wasn't big enough to get into. They were afraid to go to the roof, and so they tried to go to neighbors' homes. They had fire ants on them, they saw snakes. You know, you have to remember the water that comes in, it's not just river water, it's bringing in sewer water. It's bringing chemicals that it's been, it's bringing gasoline from the cars that's flooded. There's a lot of things that come from that water, so don't think you're swimming in a pool if you're trying to get through flood water, okay? It's really important. Come on. No pressure.
Kristy, can you switch back to the other screen?
Yeah, he's working on it.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. There you go. Great. Thank you. So some of those other things that you can look at, Red Cross has great preparedness information on it. FEMA has great preparedness information on it, Resiliency. Lots of places that you can look for information.
Websites or anything like that. Is there websites where we can get this? Because I can't write this.
Yeah, we're working on getting all of those. If they're not already on CCDRA's website, has a preparedness page on it as well, and I believe all of these are on it. I will double check it and make sure, but I believe they're all on there. Make your emergency plan. This doesn't mean just kits, you guys. Preparedness is well beyond just kits. Kits are only for if you stay. In Fairfield Harbor, I don't recommend you stay. It's not gonna be a fun time if we get a storm surge. So make that supply kit. I will tell you that in my verbiage, disaster supply kit isn't just for if I stay. I have a kit for when I leave. Full disclosure, I still haven't unpacked my evacuation boxes from Florence because I'm too afraid to forget something. When we left with about 4 boxes full of stuff. We had just moved here the year before. We had 2 houses meet us because we were coming from Japan where we couldn't take everything to. And so everything that was in San Diego pretty much stayed in San Diego. And so when we moved here, we had San Diego meet us along with everything that we had to buy over in Japan. And so we had stuff everywhere. And I couldn't find everything. We lost all of my husband's boot camp stuff, stuff from when he served in the Iraq War. We lost everything that we could not find. And so we now have evacuation kit as well. Trying not to lose those things that just are not going to be replaceable. When you're making these kits for stay and go, please remember your pets. If I find out anybody in Fairfield Harbor left their pet, I'm gonna find you. Pre-disaster, I was a dog groomer for 20 years. So, and before that, I was a barrel racing girl. Grew up on a farm. So, animals are just important, y'all. If you can't take them, call me and I'll take them. I'm gonna put a plug in for the animal shelters here too. I will tell you, Colonial Capital, we didn't take just our animals. We stopped and picked up 3 of their cats because they also needed to evacuate. And so if you have the availability and can do that, please help them evacuate their animals as well. It's really not that hard. They sent food and everything for them. Crates, they sent everything with them, so it's cool. Right now, write down all of your phone numbers, your friends, your family. If you're anything like me, I can remember my phone number, my husband's phone number, and my childhood phone number. I don't remember anything outside of that. So my doctors, my families, I don't remember any of those phone numbers anymore. And so write everything down, especially when your mind goes into a sense of stress and trauma. You're gonna forget things a lot. So right now is the time to make those checklists, write all that information down. If you have not received one of these yet, they're on the back table. Make sure you get one. These are preparedness packets, but one thing that we like to tell people is all these checklists that I'm ordering you to write, put them in this packet. Put all your utility bills, your deeds, check stubs, social security statements, anything like that, put them in this packet. I do it every June 1st, so I have updated information. And then when I need to evacuate or if I need to be rescued out of my home or whatnot, I grab this and I go. And I have everything that I need to go with me. If there are other people in your home, assign them tasks too. I'm a person in my home that does everything, and that's part of the reason it didn't all get done, because things were jumping out of my mind. So now what we've done is we have assigned one of my grandkids, they have to pack up all the pet stuff. Even before a storm is, on June 1st, they go through, they make sure they've got a list of medications, they make sure we've got all the updated vet paperwork, they know where I keep it in the house, and it's their job to make sure that that gets into our to-go bag. So everybody now has a task. I have been the one that, because I pay all the bills, I'm the one that makes sure I have new copies of utility bills, updated copies of our insurance, any shop records for my kids, anything like that. Have somebody who will go through and unplug all those appliances. One of the things I will never forget is when we finally got back to our house, we finally got through the front door because everything was shoved up against it. We get in and I hear beep, 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 beep. And I'm trying to process everything that's going on, and here's this sound. And I just wanted to rip my eardrums out because it was getting that bad. What had happened was the water had flipped our refrigerator, and because the power company was wonderful and turned our power back on before we got back, the refrigerator, which was still crazy working, was beeping because the door was open. And so Even if you don't care about losing your refrigerator, trust me, when you're walking into the house and you're processing sights, smells, all of that, and now you've got a sound added to it, anytime I hear a refrigerator, it triggers all that other stuff. PTSD, it's real. Emergency kit. This is for non-Fairfield Harbor people because I want y'all to leave. So if you are adamant about staying, and or if you go somewhere in this community that you deem as safe, have the emergency kit. You know what, everybody says 3 days. There were people in Craven County that were without power and utilities for even up to 9 days after Hurricane Florence. So please make sure that, and a lot of that is because even though the main grids come back up, that doesn't mean power to the home is going to be up. So we tell everybody 7 to 10 days. If you are on medications, one thing a lot of people don't know is that pre-storm, if there is a disaster that is being forecasted to come your way, most insurance companies will allow you to go to the pharmacy to get an emergency supply of medication, especially if your prescription, you know, if you filled it too long ago and you're going to run out within the next 15 days. They will oftentimes allow you to do an emergency supply. Power banks, family emergency contact information, written in a notebook, because if your phone dies, yeah, where are you going to get that power? So these are just some things that you need to have. Again, remember not just your people, remember your pets too. More about assigning those tasks, some of the things that you can assign. We have somebody that it's their job to scour Facebook and news media and stuff like that to stay up to date on alerts. There are no two meteorologists that are created equal, okay? We had how many meteorologists here, and some are going, it's gonna be bad, but we're okay, we're used to this. There were others that were saying, get out now if you live near water. The other thing to remember is Florence stood over us for 2.5 days. She dropped over 30 inches of water here. People who did not live on the water flooded with 2 feet of water from drainage ditches backing up, okay? Water cannot be stopped, and we need to be aware of that. So these are just some of the things. If the local authorities are telling you to get out, get out. Our local authorities are not fear mongers, you guys. I work very closely with the emergency management director, and if he is saying to get out, it's because he means it. It's because he knows by all of the reports that he's getting from places that it is time to get out. So take it seriously. Manage your documents. So, insurance, FEMA, SBA, and any nonprofit that is able to help people are all going to have documents that they require. Everybody is going to require proof of ownership and proof of identification, okay? You need copies of your ID, you need copies of your deed or rental notice or whatever it is you have. Any nonprofit is going to require generally like a utility bill, recent. They want to show that you have had power on in that home recently. Part of the reason of that is that many people own multiple homes, even if it's something they got an inheritance, and it may be a 200-year-old home that nobody's lived in 50 years. And so that's part of the reason we need to be able to verify that is your primary residence, that is your only residence, and that's where you were living. And that you're not a landlord. And that's one of the things that can help us is that, you know, most of the time if you rent a home to somebody else, you have utilities put on in their name. And so if you have utilities in your name, it kind of gives us some verification that you are the one living in there at the time of the storm. Insurance paperwork, medical, anything legal, a copy of your will or your do not resuscitate order or anything like that. Prescriptions and, you know, any of your insurance that doesn't include just home, medical, boat, car, renters, anything like that. Make sure you have a copy of it. Like I said, make it simple. Get copies of all of that, read you first, put it in this, and then go find it. Oh, insurance. Again, 1 inch of water can cause over $25,000 worth of damage. Flood insurance in eastern North Carolina, and I looked this up myself. On average, it costs about $800, it's just under $800. Of course, if we're on the water or really close to water, it's gonna be higher, we get that. I am directly on the water, and my flood insurance through NFIP or whatever it is about $2,000 a year. If I flood, that covers $250,000 of my structure, okay? Let's talk about this. It's worth it. And my flood insurance now also has contents coverage, so it also covers up to $100,000 worth of contents. So if you don't have it, really consider it. Insurance plans will cover your structure. They can cover your contents. Not all insurance brokers will put it on automatically. So please sit down with your homeowners and your flood and ensure that both of them say you have personal property or contents coverage. Always file a claim if you have damage. If I hear it again, I think I'm gonna pass out. I've had so many people say, I didn't file an insurance claim because I didn't have my $10,000 deductible. They flooded through their entire home and didn't file a claim because they didn't have $10,000 in their bank account to put towards that. Most insurance companies, I have yet to find out one that doesn't, but I'm gonna say most just in case there is one and I'm wrong. Most insurance companies take your deductible off the top of your claim. So if you have a $100,000 claim, they will write you a check for $90,000. You do not have to pay that deductible out of pocket. It's one of the biggest myths and mistakes that people make. Right now, not day before the storm, right now, take pictures and video through your home. Insurance companies are there to help and protect, but that doesn't always mean that it's there to help and protect to the degree that you need, okay? If you claim that you lost 3 TVs and you have no documentation of the size or brand or value of that, they're going to go with the lowest value that there is because they have to. So right now, when I take my video, I open my drawers and video what's in the drawers. All of my junk drawers in my kitchen, which is like 90% of them. My clothing drawers, my closets, everything. I take videos of everything, and then I take individual pictures of my really valuable things. But let me tell you, that stuff all adds up. We didn't have contents coverage, and so I had to buy every wash rag, every piece of clothing, every sock, every dish, everything in my home that I had collected over 25 years of being on my own. I now had to buy immediately because guess what, we needed it. And we took a SBA loan for $40,000 and it was gone within a week. Because we had to buy all that furniture, all those appliances, all those clothes, towels, everything. It adds up very quick. And taking those pictures, if you do have contents coverage especially, but also with your structure. I take video around my house. I show that the trees are not touching the roof. I show that the bushes are not touching the windows. I take pictures all around showing that my gutters are there and in place and good. This will all help you make sure that you get the full appropriate money that you are owed. FEMA is not an insurance company. Everybody says, but FEMA nothing. They are just another social program. They are not guaranteed to help you, and they are not meant to be used as insurance. So many people don't buy insurance because FEMA's got me, those nonprofits got me. No, ma'am and sir, they don't. Especially right now, FEMA may not be around much longer. It may be on the state. Those funds may skip FEMA, that will not be in existence, and will come directly to the state. FEMA is not an insurance policy. You cannot depend on them. And even if they do help you with home repairs, they have a max grant for Helene, which I'm also the president of CBOAD, which oversees disaster in all 100 counties of North Carolina. In Hurricane Helene, their max grant for home repairs is $42,500. Which one of your homes, if it gets flooded with 6 feet of water, is going to be able to be repaired with $42,500? Anybody? I know mine won't. So FEMA is there to help, but that is exactly all they are meant to do, is help. It is not a full assistance program. And that includes our nonprofits. Florence was almost 7 years ago. My nonprofit, before I just got this last grant, had $60,000 of materials money to do 200 homes in. Do the math. So, do you think I can fix your $100,000 repair home with $60,000 for 200 homes? It's really important knowledge. Contact your insurance companies. Make sure that your policies are up to date. Make sure that you have wind and hail. You have contents coverage on both homeowners and flood. Make sure you have loss of use if it's available through your insurance company. Homeowners insurance has loss of use, flood insurance does not. At least I know the NFIP or whatever it's called does not. And so that's one of your preparedness pieces. You need to prepare for if your home floods and your insurance does not have loss of use, how are you going to be able to afford to stay somewhere else? Start saving now. With homeowners insurance, if your, God forbid, home burns down and you have loss of use, they will often give you whatever your max cap is, so $30,000, $40,000 to allow you to live while that home is being repaired. So people use it for rent, some people just buy a camper and put it in their property if it's allowed, but flood insurance does not have that. So displacement is an even bigger financial burden, and so if you're in a flood zone and your house is at risk of being flooded, you need to be able to prepare for that now. Oh, and back to that, also remember auto insurance, boat insurance. Make sure you understand their coverages. Some boat insurance, if you leave it in the water, they will not allow you to file a claim. You are uninsurable. So check with your insurance. Auto is often the same. If you don't move it out of the danger zone and you had ample time to, many of them will deny a flood claim. Your home is just as important to repair or to prepare as everything else. If you have trees that are overhanging your roof and are rubbing the shingles, your homeowner's insurance can deny your claim for roof repair or replacement because it was not properly maintained. You had it in danger the entire time and did nothing to ensure that your home was properly maintained. So talk with your insurance and find out what is required by them for your home to be properly prepared and well maintained, and then do it. This can include caulking around windows. If your caulk is 50 years old and has not been updated and the windows resealed, they can deny your claim if water goes through those windows. Make sure that loose debris is secured, because if it's not and it goes through your window, guess what? Insurance can deny. I go as far as making sure that my neighbor's loose debris or loose items is secured, because we also have to take care of neighbors. And make sure if you have any drainage ditches in your front yard that they are clear. I don't care whose responsibility it is. If you don't make sure that you are good, it's your responsibility. You can't always blame everybody else for everything. And those gutters too. Make sure that there's no leaves and pine needles and all kinds of stuff messed up in there. Our packets used to be orange. They're not anymore. But that is what I got. Any questions? I love preparedness.
You talk about having a checklist for your contacts, but I think in our community we should have a neighborhood tree checklist as well. Have your phone numbers of your neighbors on left and right or across the street, so that when you're preparing yourself, you should be notifying them to prepare themselves. And one other thing is, if we evacuate, is there ever in your packet something that says a sheet that's on the back of your door that says, this is who I am, this is where I went, so that I'm not home, but you can call to verify I'm there.
Yeah, there is, in the packets, there's, especially in that booklet that you were holding, there's a lot of checklists in there that give a lot of information. There's also some contact information spaces, I think, in the back of it, if I recall right. Yes, where you can write down specific information and add to it, add whatever else you need. One of the things, if you can't tell, I'm not from the South, right? I've got a Yankee voice. Yeah, I was in San Diego for years. So one of the things that I struggled with was I didn't have everybody's phone number back home. My grandmother who raised me, I couldn't even remember her phone number. Even though I had dialed it, I knew it, I couldn't remember because I was under so much strain that I couldn't even contact her to let her know we were safe. And so all of those phone numbers, your 40-year-old friend that you've been friends with for 40 years, you know, those people are gonna wanna know you're okay. So all of that important information is going to be important, and you can put it in that book or add it to that packet, whatever you need to do.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, one other thing is change your voicemail message when you leave, so that people know that you're not home.
Yeah, there's also stickers that you can get from Amazon that puts how many people are in the home, how many pets are in the home. That way, not even in store time, but even fire, whatever, fire personnel or whatnot can know who's supposed to be in that home, and they know what to look for. Put a note on your door, I evacuated. I know we all worry about looting and whatnot after a storm. Tell me one of you that wants to put emergency personnel in danger because they're trying to rummage through your empty home because you are worried about your possessions. Possessions do not matter in storm time. You have to remember first responders are going to be out searching homes in flooded areas. They are not safe. I mean, when we walked into our home, I walked into flooring that had come up, there were nails all over, glass had busted all over my home, there was glass. And so to put first responders in danger because you don't even want to leave a note saying, hey, I'm not here, don't worry about me, our whole family and animals evacuated. It can really help, it's really important. And if you are special needs, if you are on oxygen or have somebody in your home on oxygen or any other special need, severe mental disability, anything like that, you can Google Craven County Social Services Special Needs Registry, and you can actually register with them so that they know who is important in getting power back up, who needs the electronics for machines or anything like that, and also who they need to go to first to make sure they were evacuated and out.
I have 3 questions really quick. First is electricity. Down here, you mentioned the substation. I'm wondering, what is the overcapacity for that substation? I'm concerned about, I look to see all this construction down here. Then I look out on Bryant Creek Road and I see massive amounts of construction out there and even potential for more. Are we really set up for that kind of expansion, or do we have that kind of overcapacity with that substation?
That's a big part of why that substation's there. So we actually, I don't know how many years ago it's been now, but when everything was on that Silver Hill substation, I remember sending, it wasn't when we had text messaging, so I sent a text and told everyone that if we lost power that night, and that was just due purely to so many banks of heat strips being on, and I really never understand why people drip the hot water faucet with the hot water heater on for the day. And so all these water heaters, and all that. So we ended up losing power, just, brown out, that kind of thing. And so when that happened, and that was probably about the same time River Dunes was coming on, and they decided to put on-demand electric water heaters in all the initial homes, which are horrible, and we did not like those, and so we would rather you not do that. But that is in part why we built that one. That one is well suited to carry us. And the battery backup, I mean, if you think about it, most electricity, we just have these very short windows of time where, it really goes off the charts. And so, which is typically in the winter, 6 to 8 in the morning, and in the summer, usually between 3 and 6, or, you know, that kind of thing, so. But those batteries, that's in part why those batteries are sitting there, to help overcome, you know, those very, very, very windows of time. So, yeah, we're in good shape.
Okay. So the second one, you mentioned that they come in and they take, I guess they cut your power off right at the box, the meter. If they do, is it the same with Generac? If you have Generac running through your meter, I'm assuming it connected to the meter, right?
So, well, and I do have a generator brochure, I didn't get in the weeds on that, but here's the thing, is that Generac, when they have a double pole, double throw transfer switch. And so, when the generator's on, it's completely isolated, it should be completely isolated from the grid. Now, our concern is for folks that don't do that, or decide to do their own little, you know, go home and do their own rig, you know, it up and everything. And so, but what happens is if you don't have that main breaker off, and it will backfeed. We had an entire county that we knew had no power because we had no transmission. And one of our employees was driving home at night and saw the person's security light on, the Tideland security light. Well, we knew, she got back to the office and said they're backfeeding. So their generator went through their wiring back out to the pole. Once it hits that transformer at the pole, it's transforming it up to utility power. And so that's why you know, we tell everybody, always treat down power lines as if they're potentially energized. Because even if the power's off all the way back at the nuclear power plant at Catawba, there's so many ways, and now everybody's got these things. So if that main breaker's off and not off, then yep, it goes back and becomes utility grade power.
So what was the normal time frame for restore where folks, I mean, I'm sure it's dependent on your particular case, but in general, how long would you have to wait from they shut it off till you could expect them to allow you to come back in? Is it just 3 months?
Like if we pulled a meter,
they pull a meter in general.
I would say that most of those that if they really didn't have any substantial damages or anything, some of them, I know I heard a lot of people say, well, if I just left my garage door open, I heard that. I heard a lot of people say, I'm gonna leave my garage door because they could have just verified that my water heater's already elevated or something, or where my electrical outlets are. I heard a lot of that, but to be honest with you, they were, I would say within 48 hours that we were putting meters right back in. Probably some the next day. But again, in a lot of those areas that were pulling meters too, we weren't ready to provide electric service. I think that was I don't know that was a 7-day outage. I've looked, I can Google that pretty quick and see, but you know, I mean, that was kind of our biggest, baddest storm. Now, obviously there's a lot of underground here, and we were working months on underground. I mean, it just, you know, we are now, new underground down here that, well, we have a conduit. So none of our stuff is in conduit either. And so then I think everybody knew that right after the telecommunications, I don't know who it was at the time, who was it? CenturyLink?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I know. I mean, the fiber on this side, on the dark side, definitely was like, it was a mess. I mean, you know, and so we're like bouncing into one another. You know, they come, they have to repair something while they're digging down. I got a picture of, you know, our cables. They may start out kind of at certain depths, but certain activities take place. If you braid, they do driveways, you know, boring takes place, and after a while, our stuff can be in rather close proximity to one another. And we've had some flashovers from, like, they've made a repair, didn't hold, and, you know, so, you know, just, but the one thing I want you to know, with Tideland, you're not going to get stuck in a big corporate call tree, you know. You can call my cell phone. I mean, literally. I mean that you're not gonna not have an answer. And we're gonna. Somebody's gonna lay hands on it personally and make sure that you know. And because I tell everybody, my job is not. I don't obviously don't repair power lines. But my job isn't. My job is to make sure you're not in the dark, information-wise. And that when you know how to plan, you know. And I'm pushing my folks every day. I'm like, look. I know, people got to make a decision. Do we keep the hotel room tonight, or can we turn it loose? And so I need some really good operational data. I need to know what's your best situational analysis right now, so I can tell these folks, can they turn that hotel room loose? Because they can do it, and another family can come in. Sure. But, you know, you don't want to let it go. And Tideland said, we're going to have our power back on by 6 p.m. You let the little room go, and then at 8 o'clock at night, we're like, sorry, it's going to be tomorrow. So, you know, a lot of utilities just won't. They'll just say it's gonna be X number of days. We really try to more so really be nail on the head as much as we can, because we know you're dependent on it, you know, and it, you know, hotel rooms aren't free, and so we,
Okay. And the final question is for you. You mentioned that several homes in the blue zone were required to go up on stilts. How many houses in Fairfield Harbor after Florence were required to be put up on stilts because they were in the blue zone?
I don't have that number, but I can tell you it's been a lot, because I boat around the community, and I still, even to this day, see houses going up.
Does anybody who's been here have any sense of that?
It doesn't have to be
figure
on
probably a good
stilts.
100.
Yeah.
100?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on stilts. You could.
It just
drive
has to be
around
on
and
it.
see the brick and the block. But anything along Pelican was lifted, I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
Pelican by the inner harbor.
About 800 homes were flooded.
Wow.
Flooded
Yeah,
out.
we had 12,000 FEMA registrations in Craven County. And that doesn't include the people who didn't file FEMA, because some people don't file for governmental assistance for whatever reason. And so we always put about a 10 to 20% additional number to that. So we're probably closer to 18,000 people, homes that were impacted. Yes, go ahead.
This is a question for Heidi. Do you know approximately how many feet from the road edge is where your lines come up at?
So typically, typically we have 15-foot right of way.
Yeah, I know.
But, and we share it with everyone else. So, if you come 15, you know.
The reason I ask you
Yeah.
is if, I know you have a 15-foot right of way, that's a given.
Uh-huh.
But are your lines in like 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet? I ask that because FEMA has the stipulation that they only pick up debris within 10 feet of the road.
Right, and that's what I said, that's what I said, yeah, that's exactly what I said, is that, you know, we may not be able to do, you know, much about it, you know, it is what it is. And so, but it's just another thing to be mindful of, that it may delay individual repair or a particular street.
And I was just thinking if we could help, because I know like where my telephone lines are, if we could help you, like the setback is 5, then I think people would set it back 5 to give you better access.
Yeah,
It was just
I mean,
a thought.
I would just say that, you know, overall, I mean, if we could just, you know, so like with Ochre Cove, Dorian, which was the year after Florence, and so, and that was a huge pile, and they really, you know, if you've ever been to Ochre Cove, you know, you don't really have much room to work with. So everything went out to a main parking lot. And so we had no power stuff, and if you had big heavy equipment, you didn't have to worry about getting into any overhead power lines. So, you know, if there were certain areas where there's, you know, a centralized area to dump things, or, you know, maybe that's one, because that pile would just be too big to move. But I'm not saying that there's not much you can do. I mean, it is what it is, and I mean, and it was tremendous. I mean, like, you know, it was just incredible amount of destruction. So again, it's just something that we can keep it in mind, but if we can't work around it, we'll work around it. Okay, don't worry about that.
Another question for you. You spoke of something called a base camp contract, where you have basically a mobile city. Is that for your workers, or is that for the communities you're working in?
That would be for our workers and so we have mutual assistance agreements, and so we bring all these folks in, and so and we don't really like it, but we're, like before a hurricane gets here, we're booking hotel rooms left and right. And because we got to put these guys up, you know, because they work 16-hour days, and then they got to rest up at the hotel, and sometimes they sleep in shifts. And, you know, so this is for like Florence times 2, times 3. If that happens, we can pull the trigger, and they come and I mean, it's incredible what they do, and everything they take care of. And so, like I said, because we had great response. I mean, we had churches that organized it, and we were bagging linemen's clothes and labeling them, and those ladies would go to their houses and wash and launder and everything. But to be honest with you, all their equipment, all their clothing today has to be fire resistant. So you can't just take, I mean, yeah, you wash the, you know, the private stuff, but the uniform, And that's a special process to make sure all those funds are fire resistant. So they can't go to, they can't go in the back off to the church. So they bring in a mobile city. They bring in generators, they bring in everything. And then they set up, and that frees us to, that we're not, because at that point, we're not worried about how we get all these folks fed. I mean, if it's that bad, there's no grocery store, there's no food, and these people, they bring stuff in, they bring in mobile kitchens and everything.
So for the community, a lot of nonprofits will come in to set up for the community. And it doesn't include just the nonprofit work, but there are corporate partners that work through the nonprofits to help provide. So Tide brought in laundry trailers after Florence. So Baptist on Mission, Samaritan's First, Red Cross, all of those organizations will bring stuff in, and CCDRA will be involved in that as well to try to set up. CCDRA has a mobile unit now, a mobile office, to where we'll be able to bring our mobile office right to Fairfield Harbor, set it up for a couple days for everybody to find resources, apply for assistance, help understanding FEMA and how to appeal FEMA, stuff like that. So all of those nonprofits will really amplify in for that community response and use, child trailer stuff.
I can say that we were very thankful for Samaritan's First, Baptist Men's, all of the 7 days of hope.
Yeah.
They were wonderful.
8 days.
If you put this, 8 days. If you put this on your to-do list, Fairfield Harbor gets forgotten in Craven County. That Tideland, that Tide truck was in New Bern. Red Cross was in New Bern. We had a fight to get Red Cross here. We get forgotten.
So the reason that all of those groups set up in New Bern is because it is, if you drive point of county to point of county, it's sometimes 2.5 hours. And so all of our groups set up centralized because most of these groups use volunteers. And to ask a volunteer to drive 2 hours to get county to, or end to end gets a little too hard, and we suffer volunteer burnout. So most resources will set up in New Bern. We will circulate the entire county. I can tell you, Red Cross, I know they were here in Fairfield Harbor on day 2. They had people in there.
But we had to fight for them.
So,
because they were not coming across the river. We had a 2-8, our zip code's the same as a 60, but they didn't see 60 addresses for them to service. But they were here and they stayed with us.
Yeah,
it was an issue to get them here.
Yeah, so one of the things that CCDRA does is we keep tabs on all of the partners working in the community. So I know Red Cross had representatives in Fairfield Harbor on day 2.
I know.
As well as Red Cross Riverbend, Duffy Field, all of those. So that's one of the services that we provide, is we keep tabs on those resources and we help navigate them. If there is a community that was severely impacted that's not having assistance or representation, we navigate them over to that area. We work very closely with every nonprofit that will come into this community. It's one of our jobs. And so I can tell you, they get navigated.
Kristy, we actually moved a foot uphill when we came here to Fairfield Harbor from Charlotte County, Florida. And one of the things that they mentioned in evacuation, and I'd like you to talk about how this applies specifically here, 2 things. One is make sure you got 3 routes mapped out. North, south, and in our case, west. And make sure you're across the bridge before they close it. Would you just talk to how those things apply here for Fairfield Harbor?
Let me just say one thing, and I'm gonna let her answer that. I was on the board of the Salvation Army, the Washington Corps, which serves all those hurricane-struck counties. I was on that board for 17 years. And the one thing I want to tell you is that most of these organizations, when they come, there may be a contingent there that is local, but remember, a lot of your local contingents, they all of a sudden became victims. So you really depend on these people being able to come from different states, different parts of the country. So the one thing I will say is, I think it's really important that make sure that there's a significant Fairfield Harbor presence on all within all these individual volunteer organizations. Make sure you get a board seat on the Salvation Army down in New Bern. Make sure that you've got folks with the Red Cross, because again, you don't want to send people where, I mean, so sometimes people talk about electric trucks, and they're like, well, I just see the guy sitting there. These guys, when they come from other states, they don't know our system. They don't, so they have to have a scout, and that's one of the reasons why we deputize all these retirees and we ask them to come back, because we need people to lead people there, because they don't know the system. So again, you need to make sure that you're sowing those seeds in your community to have those relationships, because that's as much about emergency relationships have to be prepared, not just your house. And you have to lay those foundations and pray you never need them. But then you may be able to find people that in your community that can be activated to help other folks. And so I was never, when pretty much the whole time I was in the Salvation Army, I never helped my own community, but I helped those relationships. I helped locate people that had commercial kitchens that had generators, so that if they brought in a huge contingent, there were available places that we could put these people and they go to work. So again, it's a two-way street, you know. We need to lay those foundations before disaster happens.
And we also have to remember that when you're facing 15 to 18,000 homes that have been impacted, there is no organization that has enough staffing to have somebody at that home, at all of those homes, even within a week. We're 7 years out from the storm and still have 200 homes to repair. You know, we think it's bad after week 1 or week 2 or week 5. Look at those of us, including some of our Fairfield Harbor people who still have not started construction because they're still being impacted. It takes time. Disaster takes time. There's never enough funding. There's never enough people. And there's never enough skilled people to do all of the work that quick after a storm. It always takes time. So to answer your question, yes, 3 routes. Welcome to Fairfield Harbor, there's 1. You know, and that's part of the reason that I highly encourage people to evacuate, because it's not easy for you to get out, and it's not easy for anybody to get in either, even our emergency personnel. You know, they've got to bring vehicles in, which means they got to clear trees off the road, and I don't know if any of you ever driven down Broad Creek. There's a tree or two. You know, one of our partners at CCDRA was actually coming, he's a web guy. He came into Fairfield Harbor to do some work, and on his way out, a tree, and this is in blue sky day, it wasn't even raining, a tree came down on the front of his truck. You know, I mean, it is an everyday danger, you know, and we really need to, not just for ourselves, but for emergency personnel. Stanley Kite, who's our emergency management director, he will tell you every single day, no questions asked, if it is not safe, I am not sending my people out. I don't care that you're in the attic or on the roof. I cannot risk other people's lives because you didn't follow evacuation orders. And it's not because he's heartless. That man is one of the most caring people I've ever met in my entire life. But he knows that those emergency responders' lives are just as valued as us as residents. And so we have to take care of ourselves and take care of those people who are coming in to get us. So you can actually, on the Know Your Zone, there's links on there for evacuation routes to tell you where to go. One thing I will advise you is to keep an eye on that storm, because it jumps. We evacuated on Monday before, well, I evacuated Monday before Florence. I got my camper and 3 of my dogs out. My husband couldn't leave yet because the Marine Corps was trying to deploy him. He was set to deploy on September 13th. He was going to Norway. And they kept him there till very last minute, where they said, oh, by the way, we're gonna hold off, go ahead and evacuate with your family. And he evacuated the day before the storm surge came in. And so I watched the storm, and even after I evacuated, I didn't permanently set that camper up in that lot, because if it was coming back down to Atlanta, I was moving back up to Tennessee or wherever I needed to go. These storms shift. And one thing people forget is that these storms, it doesn't have to make landfall right at Atlantic Beach. Florence made landfall at Wrightsville Beach down by the South Carolina border. Floyd, I think it was Floyd, made landfall in South Carolina and did all that damage here. Matthew, all of them, none of them had landfall at Atlantic Beach, not a single one. They were all south of us. It's that northeast quadrant that brings that storm surge the most, and the worst part of it. So watch the storms, make sure you have a couple evacuation ways, because it's not always due east that's the best. Sometimes it's north, sometimes it's around. If the water comes in, you don't want to go through Kinston, because they often get landlock us, you know, a lot of different things you need to do.
I have a question about insurance. We're going to be here 4 years on September 1st. We missed all the fun, but we heard all about Florence. We live on the Northwest Creek on the water in the worst flood zone possible. We are raised up high, so our house didn't take water, but the garage flooded all the way up. Knowing all that and coming from Southern California where we don't have flooding, we of course bought the FEMA policy with full coverage, and I was concerned that that is not enough money for our property. So I also bought a second policy through our insurance carrier, underwritten by Lloyd's of London for excess flood. And I paid that, and they notified me January this year that they are not rewriting the policy. So I don't have anything but FEMA. And that was the only place our insurance carrier could find excess flood. So you say FEMA's not an insurance company, who else will cover flood insurance if not FEMA?
There's not a lot. Flood insurance historically has been struggling to keep up with the flood events that's been happening across this country. And that's part of the reason FEMA's not an insurance policy, because if they paid for everybody's full recovery across this entire country, yours and my taxes would be 97% out of our paychecks. Because disaster, you know, FEMA paid out, I believe it's almost $53 million in Craven County alone. And that's just in home repairs. That doesn't include transportation, furniture, TSA, you know, the temporary shelter, all of that stuff. In home repair alone, $52 million in Craven County. And so insurance companies have been feeling a lot of the same struggle. You know, like I said, labor's going up, materials are going up. It gets to be really complicated. One of the things CCDRA does after an event is we help work with several contractors and the county in validating contractors, because we do get a lot of out-of-town people that come in wanting to do work. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Same with our locals, some are good, some are bad. I have she was 72 years old at the time of the storm. She had a small leak in her dining room, and this was out in Cove City. Small leak in her dining room, insurance denied her claim because it didn't break her deductible. And so she went and took a personal loan. She said, if I'm gonna fix it, I'm gonna fix it right, I'm gonna put a whole new roof on. Took a personal loan out for the entire new roof. Contractor, which was local, took the money and left. She ended up losing her entire home. We had to tear it down and rebuild a brand new one because the damage was too extensive and we would not be able to meet code in it. And so insurance is a tough piece because those insurance companies, they feel some of that aftermath too, and so it's hard for them to keep up. The best that you can do is make sure your home's ready, make sure you get the items out that you can, that you need, that are valuable. Do any mitigation that you can do. Make sure that you don't have a lot of pooling up underneath your home. Make sure your land is flat and graded on the outsides of it. Make sure your gutters and everything are good. You know, we can't stop damage. But I can tell you that most of the time, if you do your research on contractors, most of the time you are insured where you need to be with the NFIP. I think right now it's $250,000 max for repairs. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's not like they're rebuilding an entire home on stilts on average. You know, we don't get the storm surges that and the Cat 5 winds that the Panhandle got in Michael. If it happens, then we'd have to talk. But in our average storm, most houses don't get washed away. Those that do were improperly maintained, didn't have what they needed to be structurally sound. FairfieldHarbour is a pretty new community. You know, we don't date back to the early 1900s. And so most of the homes that are built are still quite strong, and you can only do what you can. I'm not aware of anybody else that has additional flood insurance outside of NFIP. I can tell you my house in Riverbend, as soon as I flooded, I got a notice that said you were no longer insurable from my private flood insurance. And then NFIP hit me with an $8,000 bill to be covered by that. And that was part of the reason we had to sell the house, because I didn't have all that. I just moved here the year before. So it is a struggle. One of the things CCDRA can do is that if somebody is underinsured, because we don't serve just uninsured, we also serve underinsured. And so if you cannot find a contractor, and we cannot find a contractor to do the work that you need with what insurance money you were given, some of our partners and even CCDRA's repair program can sometimes take that insurance money, do the work yourselves without you having to pay for labor, which is usually what puts stuff outside of the insurability, you know, the actual insured and able to recover piece. So sometimes we can help with that labor. So one of the things I forgot to mention is after a storm hits, if you are impacted, call your insurance companies first, call FEMA second, and call CCDRA third. Because if something happens, you know, we work with legal aid, we work with several attorneys, contractors, emotional and spiritual support partners. We work with every piece that we can to make sure people are recovered whole. And so if you have a gap that you are not able to meet, or if you just need somebody to talk to and get it off your chest, because if you're like me, I couldn't complain to anybody because my neighbors were going through it and I didn't want my family back home worrying about me. And so I was bottling up a whole lot of things. And so we have people that can have those conversations too, but we can help you find contractors that may be able to do it if, that's not saying everybody who's impacted call and ask us for a contractor. That's saying if you are struggling to find somebody to help you with your insurance money, we oftentimes have contractors and stuff that can work within that realm. And CCDRA does repairs too in certain metrics. So we don't build new homes, we work with partners to build new homes. But I can't give you an answer to that. I can just tell you be as ready as you can. And generally, I think I've had 3 cases out of over 2,000 people that we've worked with. I think I've had 3 that were underinsured to that metric. Some of them were underinsured because of contract labor, but nobody was completely underinsured.
Just a couple quick comments, if I may. During Florence, that was our first hurricane. I like blizzard so much better. We're from Boston, you get snow, you shovel, you're done. I live on Jolly Roger Court. We were one of the only houses on the street that didn't flood. We were in a flood zone. We didn't flood, so they took us out of the flood zone, which was kind of interesting. But we did keep our insurance just because. Tideland, thank you very much. They shut our electric off, but they turned it back on. We were able to help neighbors. But anybody that you mentioned, take your pets. Honest to God, I'm the crazy cat lady that when you see all the 100,000 emails looking for cat food, it's me. We are still dealing with cats that have been left behind from Florence. I am devastated. I get probably 15 phone calls a day to help. I can't keep up. Take your pets. I'm not kidding. It sounds so silly. Take your pets. Turn them into the shelter if you had to. Do something. Don't leave them behind, please, because I have so many that I've had to personally spay and neuter that are in my backyard because people left them behind. So please don't.
Hi, did you want to talk? Can I ask a question?
Okay, last question.
Okay, I have a question and a comment. The question is just personal as far as electric is concerned. You mentioned, unplugging one of your appliances. I can't do that. Can I just shut off my breakers and that would be sufficient?
Repeat the question.
Okay, I have, you had mentioned to unplug appliances before we leave.
Right.
Okay.
Even before the storm gets, when there's a summer thunderstorm, it's like every night, your heat light or whatever, and like I have my biggest TV in my house is on the porch, so like I unplug it. I don't so when the lightning and activity, but I'm just saying that if you have sensitive electronics or pool pumps or whatever,
you're at greater risk for damaging surges when you have that storm activity and or the power restoration phase. So, but if you can't unplug them, I mean, some people put them on strips and.
I'm talking about like the stove. I can't pull the stove out and unplug it.
No, you shut your breaker. No, cut it off with the breaker.
On the breaker, okay.
No. And honestly, stoves aren't, I mean, I know they're new, fangled, all these chip, everything's got a chipboard or whatever, but they're not, they're more durable than a lot of the electronics, but don't worry about what you can't do. You know, focus more on what you can do.
Okay, and the other comment I had was, I was on the board of the, one of the condo associations during the flood, and it was very, very difficult to find contractors who were working with people. He said, we want one contractor, not, 21 contractors. We had to, to deal with it.
Margaret probably knows more about that.
I know Margaret and I worked a lot together during that. And, it was very difficult, but we were told that we had to raise our buildings before we could finish our houses or get a CO. So they gave us, the limitations, and we raised 6 buildings to that height. And now we're in 9 in the FEMA scale, after having raised the houses. So, I don't know what to, just a comment, I don't know what to do with it or go with, or where to go with that.
That's going to happen, and part of the reason that the county permitting requires stuff like that is because, one, if you repeatedly flood, you are now becoming, one, uninsurable, or you're raising everybody else's rates. 2, it's risking your life, it's risking emergency personnel's life. There's a lot that it does to the community. There's a lot it does to the community values. And so the county permitting is who essentially says if your home is more than 50% damage and you're in that blue flood zone, you are elevating, because we can't keep doing this. Nobody can keep doing this. So,
and we're still not high enough.
Right.
Does it change the?
Yes, and they will continue to change that. Every storm, their flood zones are going to change. When I say June 1st, I mean check everything every June 1st. I do it June 1st because that's the beginning of storm season, and it's a good reminder. But flood zones are going to continue to change, especially with the way our coast is becoming more and more underwater. How many times have we had to move that lighthouse out there? I mean, the terrain changes. And then if they don't dredge the river every single storm, guess what's happening? That river is just getting fuller and fuller. And I'm not talking one small area of it. That river in its entirety has not been dredged. And our water table's higher since Hurricane Florence. We never got back to normal after Hurricane Florence. So it will continue to change, and unfortunately there are houses that have elevated that had to elevate again. Eventually it just becomes a buyout, where they won't even allow that elevation. It becomes an actual floodplain, and no homes, no structures allowed. So we even saw in Riverbend buyouts being done because it was just happening too much. So, yeah. I know you said no more questions. If anybody has other questions for me, I want you to know CCDRA is always available. And if anybody wants to volunteer, we've got volunteer positions for everything: office, warehouse, construction, case management, all of those things. So, but I want everybody to be prepared. So if anybody has questions or individual questions, I went out to people's houses and walked them with them to explain to them what may cause denial. So my phone number is, or our phone number is on those packets on that business card. Just call and leave a message. Bear with me, I am working in 46 counties of North Carolina right now, so if I don't call you back that day, just get over it.
Don't worry, can I just say something? Going back to your electricity question, they pulled my box coming back into Fairfield Harbor, amongst the early. There was a bunch of ribbons, Post-its, there was stickies, everything was color coordinated to represent this, and this. So my box was pulled, and in order to get it back in, they generally, if they could see that the house had water, you're not gonna get it back unless you actually do an electrical inspection. And basically, you know, it ran at that time, it was $125. And I did the electrical inspection. Well, that didn't come probably until the middle of October because everybody's on a list. So just know that you can make those calls, it may not happen, so you may not get your electric within 24, 48 hours. And then going forward, my kids were still in New York. We brought them back, it was Halloween, and my son kept plugging in something in one of his outlets. Well, we kept blowing the fuse. So my husband kept going out, we couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. So when the water came up in the crawl space and it swelled all the wood, it pushed the staple into the electric line. So now it's starting to sear right underneath his bedroom.
And Louise, thank you.
Yeah. So, my box was uncapped. The cap was across the room.
Hey. Hey, we've got a bunch of cookies over here.
Coffee, to death.
Coffee, cookies.
Iced tea.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. This will be on.
Yeah, give me a week with this.
About a week, we'll have a week. If you want to see it again.